Hello and welcome to The Hash. It's a lovely Tuesday with very many things going on. I am Zach Seward. We got Will Foxley, Jen Sanasi, and Naomi Brockwell here to talk about the latest in crypto news. Naomi is leading us off today with some big news out of Wall Street. Naomi, take it.
Huge news, the moment we have all been waiting for. So the long-awaited ETF that was launched on the New York Stock Exchange under the symbol BITO has launched. It initially rose 3% when it began trading and was lately up 1.6% to $40.63 in its debut this morning. It is linked to the Bitcoin futures that are traded on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. So all pretty exciting news for the crypto space. And another story that goes along with all of this ETF news is Grayscale is now filing with the SEC to convert its Bitcoin trust into an ETF. This is not something new that they've just decided to do. This is something they've been trying to do since 2016 and have been unsuccessful, along with all of the other people who've been trying to get ETFs since that time. But hopefully now that we've gotten the ball rolling and we finally have a Bitcoin ETF of sorts, maybe they will have more luck. So an exciting moment, guys. Well, I'm going to throw it to you to start off with. What are your thoughts on all of this? Where are we headed with ETFs?
Headed upwards, I hope. I think the BITO ETF is like a good kind of hallmark of where we are at in the space right now. Institutional adoption is obviously a huge headline, but this Grayscale trust moving into an ETF would be an even bigger movement for the total economy. So $50 billion of crypto assets are locked up in this trust, and it's been kind of the namesake of the entire cryptocurrency industry's kind of toehold on Wall Street. If you didn't have this package for investors to dip into over the last few years, there'd be a lot less institutional interest in crypto itself. And the fact that you can convert this into an ETF only makes the project bigger and also bring more people into space to look at this legacy product. Because you're looking at like BITO and you're looking at some of these other ETFs, they haven't launched yet. They don't have a history of running. They don't have a good custodian set up. Grayscale has all these things already packaged. They've been doing it for years. And just like you said, Naomi, they've been waiting to do this for years. They've been waiting and waiting and waiting. I've seen them throw this application up a few times in the past, and now it seems the moment is here. I'm going to throw this down to you, Jen, though.
And I don't know if anyone will have any answers, but the Grayscale ETF application is for a spot ETF, and Gary Gensler has not been as favorable to ETF.
Jen, we're losing you all
Oh,
over.
no. All right. I'm going to jump in here because there are some interesting things. Oh, I think she's back. Are we going to trust her connection, though? Then take it away. Let's see what we got.
I don't know where you lost me. But the ETF that Grayscale's filing is for a spot ETF, and Gary Gensler hasn't been really favorable when he talks about spot ETFs. He's more favorable towards futures ETFs. So I wonder, I lost my train of thought when I froze there, but Will, why do you think that Grayscale would submit this application given the comments that have come out of the SEC?
Yeah, it's difficult to look inside Gary Gensler's head. That's been the decisions he's been making has been shocking to most people in the industry so far. So who knows what's going to happen? No predictions there. But I think if you're looking at the ETF space, to have one go through means that there's more than likely others going to follow suit. They're not going to limit the competition to just one product, and they're certainly not going to limit it just to one company. So it's not just going to be ProShares. There's going to be others. There's going to be Spot at some future point. It does depend on what the SEC wants. And in my mind's eye, the SEC is going to want somebody that they trust, that's been in the space for a while, that obviously has all their stuff together. And I think that Grayscale, in this sense, would make sense to be able to issue something like this. That would be my assumption here. Of course, there's a lot of other responsible ETF providers out there who could do spot as well. So not saying that they won't go at the same time, or those other ETF providers wouldn't even precede Grayscale in issuing a spot Bitcoin ETF. Naomi, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, it's interesting because you had the CEO of Grayscale, Michael Sonnenschein, who said that he views this move from the SEC as bullish for Bitcoin because if regulators are comfortable with derivatives tied to cryptocurrency, it suggests that they're comfortable with the underlying asset class. But we are yet to see the SEC be comfortable enough with that asset class to allow an ETF to be based on it. And Sonnenschein has spoken out against an ETF pegged to a futures market rather than the underlying asset in the past. He said that, first of all, there's a cost differential between them. A futures-based ETF would cost investors more in fees because of the inherent expense of rolling over futures contracts as they expire. But it doesn't really seem to be a reason why an ETF based on futures would be, inherently bad or why you should be skeptical of it. It's just why it may be an inferior product for consumers. But he also said that if a futures-based ETF comes to market without the ability for Grayscale BTC to convert to an ETF, it has the potential to harm investors who hold tens of billions of dollars worth of GBTC today outright, as well as the investors who have exposure to GBTC inside mutual funds, retirement accounts, and other places. So the idea is that perhaps the fact that Grayscale has to either, their fund is either at a premium or at a discount. And so having something that's tied to futures may be more desirable to people, and people would switch over, and then that could potentially hurt the underlying value of the Grayscale trust, which is a risk because so many people are holding it right now. I mean, it's just kind of interesting to me that all of his reasons why this futures ETF are not good seem to be because it would hurt Grayscale. So it seems very self-motivated there. I'm not quite sure I quite understood the inherent issue with a futures ETF there. But let's change track here and move to some other things. I'm going to throw this to you, Zach. What's going on with Facebook?
Facebook, remember them when they wanted to do a crypto thing called Libra, and then they changed that thing to Diem? Well, guess what? Facebook is back. They're in the stablecoin business all of a sudden, but they're not in the stablecoin business with the Diem stablecoin. They're actually in the stablecoin business with USDP, which is the recently rebranded Paxos standard stablecoin. They're rolling out a pilot project in Guatemala and US, and it's going to go through Novi, which is their wallet subsidiary, formerly known as Calibra, back before the big name change. But this was sort of dropped on the world this morning at the height of Bitcoin futures ETF hysteria, and is also some interesting news to see out of Facebook that they're still charging ahead for this Diem project, even despite all of the regulatory pushback. So I'm going to toss this to you, Will. I was actually quite shook by this one. Crazy that they've been building in the background and are launching in some capacity fairly soon. What's your take on this whole Novi development?
Shooketh as well. It's interesting to me to say that the only thing that came out of this whole Facebook drama was their wallet, and not the stablecoin, not any other subsidiary products around the token, around the stablecoin, but it's their wallet that got through. And that makes sense because the wallet is just very simple code, just holding cryptocurrency. It's interesting to just kind of step back and look at the picture and say Facebook wasn't able to launch its own stablecoin, but now they have to use a smaller firm that I guess was able to kind of skirt under the radar and put out their own stablecoin as well. Because if Facebook wasn't able to put out a stablecoin and they're still having problems with that, that makes me question about USDC and USDT and all these other stablecoins that are already out there on the market, and what does that look like for them in the next few years? Taking a step away from that conversation, though, Facebook's ability to keep moving is notable. I think they really hit a ton of traps over the last few years. I remember Mark Zuckerberg going before Congress and him just getting grilled, along with a few of the Libra folk before they transitioned to Diem. And they've kept going. So props to them for being able to put out a product that could have some legs. I think a stablecoin product like this really would be interesting. Notable for US consumers because there's Apple Pay and Google Pay integrations here, which would mean that it would be in the phones of most Americans who use their mobile wallets for payments, just like I do every day. So it depends if people are going to purchase those stable coins and then choose to use them. That's still a significant gap you have to front. But the fact that it's already into Apple Pay and Google Pay that's pretty big. That's a leap that a lot of stable coins and cryptocurrencies have not been able to make yet. Naomi, I'll throw this up to you though.
Yeah, it bothers me tremendously that the government is able to put the reins on what Facebook is doing and everyone else is still kind of doing what they want, right? It's the government picking winners and losers here. I mean, I'm not the biggest Facebook fan, but I also don't like the government coming in and choosing which people are allowed to, create products and which aren't. And the fact is that Facebook is under the thumb of the government so much right now. There are, antitrust lawsuits out there. There are so many ways that the government could really just hurt the Facebook business, so they have to toe the line. So when they came out and announced, hey, we're going to be doing this stablecoin thing, which was kind of interesting, this basket of assets, it wasn't a stablecoin at the time. It was this very interesting product, and it was a real financial innovation. The idea was that it would be this federated system. It would have all these different organizations as part of it. It would have all kinds of assets in this basket, which I thought was a very interesting financial product personally, and quite different to having something just pegged to the US dollar, whose fate I'm not particularly confident in. So I was very interested in having something that had like a mix of different assets. And then the government was just like, no, Facebook, we control you. You will not move forward. So now it seems that they're just partnering with other organizations that, weren't under the thumb of government so much, or under the same scrutiny, or in the midst of antitrust lawsuits and all of this. So they've partnered with them and are doing a lesser product. But it's just, I hate to see interesting innovation get squashed through like these politicians who didn't really understand what they were talking about. If you listen to the hearings that went on in 2019, it was such a joke. And it was just all these politicians talking about how, well, Facebook, you're not good with storing people's data. And, there's all this surveillance. And it's like, what, pot calling kettle black here? It was like this crazy situation with the government saying how much they like privacy for the citizens of the United States. It was like, you guys don't. I don't know what this is about, but it's definitely not about privacy and respecting the rights of your citizens. So this whole situation has me a little bit angry, but I'm glad that they're moving forward in some capacity. But Zach, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, I mean, just, the vision from Libra from the get-go was to make sending money as easy as sending a text message. And the fact that this is like slowly inching toward reality, 2+ years later after the initial announcement, is really interesting. But, if you look at the website that this was announced on today, you'll see it's no fees, sending money across borders. Some of that vision stuff that was there with the Libra rollout exists in this form, but again, with USDP. Paxos is a highly regulated stablecoin rather than a more novel product, Naomi, that you were alluding to. The original Libra stablecoin was actually quite novel in terms of its tokenomics and was quite interesting, but was beaten back pretty severely by regulators the world over. Jen, I'm going to toss this to you. I saw your hand up. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to note that Facebook is really good at user experience, and they have a massive audience, right? 2.9 billion people know and use and trust Facebook. So I'm really interested to see what this user experience is going to be like, and how they educate and market and advertise this wallet, and if they are going to be that really big, mainstream push to their 2-point-some odd billion users. But Naomi, I'll kick it back to you before we go to break.
Yeah, I would mention that people are probably misguided to trust Facebook. They do just get a tremendous amount of data on people and sell it. And it's just not good for your OPSEC, not good for your digital security. So I'm not sure whether I would encourage people to use something where we know so much data is just being taken about their financial transactions, et cetera. I'm always on the bandwagon of let's make privacy normalized in payments. And so I would encourage people, if you're going to use a messaging app, go and use Signal, go and use Mobile Coin. I just think that it's a much better product than the Facebook one is going to be. But that being said, let's just take this power out of government's hands and then quibble about which other option we're going to go to. But I do, sorry, I know we have to go to teas, but I do just want to say, well, last thing, when we say that, we're taking this out of the hands of government, Facebook really does have this very insidious, incestuous relationship with government in terms of, PRISM program and them just getting access to Facebook servers and all of this stuff. So, you're not really getting that financial privacy by going with something like Facebook. That's what I'll say. Zach, take us to the teas.
All right. Potentially catalytic for the idea of stablecoins outside of the crypto trading world. We'll see what happens. It's going to be fun. After this, though, we're going to take a break. We're going to talk about Martha Stewart NFTs. Martha Stewart NFTs. Stick with us. We'll talk about that.
I think Will is the most excited.
Will is pumped. All right. Let's do a break.
Martha, let's go.
CoinDesk indexes, the market standard for crypto assets since 2014. Our trusted data powers billions in publicly traded funds. CoinDesk indexes are the standard used by institutions, and they're the key for investors looking to understand and access crypto markets.
CoinDesk Bitcoin Price Index, XBX, has been instrumental to Grayscale, enabling investors around the world to access Bitcoin through a regulated, familiar product.
CoinDesk indexes enabled the early adopters to build crypto investment vehicles, and they're already trusted by a new generation of global investors.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Hash. Now, before we get into Martha Stewart, we're going to take a trip to Decentraland and talk about what Paris Hilton is doing. So she's performing at the inaugural Metaverse Festival, which runs from October 21st to October 24th. And she's using her Genie's avatar to DJ in Decentraland, which marks a first for Genie's foray into the virtual social world of Decentraland. A little bit of a tongue twister there. I can't speak today, but I think we all got the essence of the story. Naomi, I'm gonna kick this off to you first. We spoke about Genies, I think, months ago. They rose a $65 million round for these avatars, which would allow celebrities to perform in ways like this, but also everyday people to participate in digital wearables. What did you take away from this story when you saw that Paris, the original influencer, was getting into Decentraland?
I thought that Jen is absolutely going to be picking up this story so that she could talk about
and
Paris
throwing
Hilton.
it right to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we've reported on her involvement in the metaverse in the past. So this upcoming concert of sorts in Decentraland. Maybe we'll find a new term for metaverse concerts, as they're a completely different beast, and they're kind of this novel, interesting interaction of people. And I mean, in the past, you've had, there was a Scottish singer and songwriter, Nina Nesbitt, who wasn't really involved in crypto at the time, wasn't really involved in NFTs. And then she said, listen, COVID shut down all live performances. I can't travel internationally. Borders are closed. I have to look for another way to reach audiences. And it's just so interesting how the last 2 years have just really fast accelerated us towards this kind of decentralized future. And we're living more and more on the internet, and we're having concerts in the metaverse now with genies and Paris Hilton DJing from her avatar. It's a completely new world. We're really witnessing the beginnings of it, which is just so exciting to be alive at this time, just to see this very beginning of what I think is just going to be this big part of our future. But I'll throw it to you, Will, for your thoughts.
I have so many thoughts here. Now, I'll just kind of pick up the Paris Hilton point, I guess, here. There was a recent article in the Wall Street Journal about her kind of moving all her media brands into one company. And I think that this just kind of highlights the way that she thinks about moving forward with influencing. I guess you could kind of say it as a general bucket term. There's always been this influencer status in Web 2.0, and that's changing with Web 3.0. And it's much more interactive now. But before, you're I'm going to post on Instagram, maybe I'll respond to a few people or have a YouTube live. That might be the most interactive way you can work with people online. But with this metaverse stuff, it's a whole other level. You can literally go get coffee with somebody in Starbucks in a digital reality that doesn't exist. Obviously, you're not sipping real coffee, but you are there with them in some sort of sense. And there is this physical element to it as well, whether that's perceptually or even just I guess they have these little sensors now that buzz you if you touch someone, or you can squirt water on you if you go down a water park or something. So there's insane stuff coming with the metaverse. I don't know how much that is tied up in this, but a concert's pretty cool. And I think it does kind of show you where influencing at the very least is going. Zach, I'll throw it down to you.
Sure, let's go to the metaverse, guys. It's cool to see this happening. I wonder if this is going to be a big moment for the metaverse, or if it's just going to be another thing that kind of flies under the radar. It would be interesting if all these big names with their big followings were able to motivate some percentage of those folks to go check out the metaverse for the first time. I kind of hope that these open metaverses do find early traction right before these sort of corporate metaverses kick in full force, right? We talked about Facebook, I think it was yesterday, and their big hiring push around this stuff. It would be nice if open, decentralized alternative to some of those more centrally controlled metaverses emerged and found traction. And if this event, this Metaverse Festival, is a way to kickstart some of that traction, I think that's going to be a good thing for the future of online life. But I don't know. I think it's still pretty foreign to most people. We hear a lot about the metaverse. I've spent a little bit of time like in the metaverse. It's still kind of clunky. Like it makes your laptop sound like a semi truck when the fan really gets going. And that gets me all worried. But
Zach,
like,
how do
I don't know.
tell our audience, how do you get to the metaverse?
You just go to like a website and you just like
got to click your heels 3 times and boom, you're there.
Click your heels 3 times
and off you go.
Do a handstand, and then before you know it, you are a digital avatar and you're a living, breathing representation of your kind self. All right, but anyway, forget that metaverse stuff. This is the show. This is the show right here. Will, Martha Stewart. Will, do your thing.
Very excited for this block. Martha Stewart wants to be your crypto queen. The 80-year-old lifestyle guru.
That was the best start to any article.
And it was going to be great, and you interrupted me, but it's okay.
I'm so sorry.
Okay. It's the Jen show right now. This is Martha's time. The 80-year-old guru is unveiling a bunch of NFTs for you to spend your money on. Look at these pumpkins. You can buy them for about $66 a pop. And these are pumpkins that she handcrafted, took some photos of, threw them up on the blockchain, and now you can buy them and own them yourself. There's also this really frightening image on the right, which is a selfie she took. I think it's based on some Russell Brand kind of photo shoot of some sort. Halloweenish, obviously. But you can purchase that as well. What she's doing here is basically talking to a younger audience. Martha Stewart has been like the original influencer, a lot of like domestic care kind of topics here. And she wants to extend that with her NFT lineup. And got picked up by the Wall Street Journal. So gotta love that. Zach, I'll throw it down to you.
It was a Wall Street Journal exclusive. Let's be accurate.
Let's be clear.
They had the exclusive on this NFT drop, and that to me is highly entertaining.
Did they front run everybody?
I don't understand where these NFTs live. I don't understand the project that they're working with to do this. It's like a white label NFT solution. I was like poking around a little bit during the show and trying to figure out what network these live on. I couldn't quite find that, but it is the moment in which everyone is here from a media coverage perspective, but also from an NFT drop perspective, right? Martha Stewart, to her credit, just an awesome entrepreneur. She's done a lot of things in her day, and so to experiment in this new space is interesting to see from her. But I think we're just going to see everyone have an NFT strategy, and I think this is another sign that reality is fast approaching. So I don't know. Did anyone figure out where these live and like where they're tradable? Like, does anyone know what?
Well, there's something called Tokens Commerce Inc. Which she's partnered with, which is a service that streamlines direct-to-consumer sales of NFT in sports, music, and entertainment. And they're helping to develop her digital collection boutique, which Martha Stewart has named Fresh Mint. And apparently fans and crypto investors can transact in both crypto and fiat currencies. So that's interesting that you don't have to just be in the crypto verse. Maybe this is a way for her to bring newbies into the space and own an NFT without using crypto. I don't even know how that works. How can you have the digital rights to something if you don't have the private key that, unlocks that asset? Like, it doesn't make much sense to me.
But you guys are focused on the wrong thing here. No one cares about the underlying token, underlying protocol.
We're not
talking about the pumpkins here. We're talking about $66 NFT pumpkins, which is pretty rad. You haven't seen that before, have you? Look at that. You could own that picture on the right.
Bringing us back to what matters, Will.
Yeah.
You could own that. You could own that image on the right.
So,
no, I'm not going to say that control.
Part of this article said there's the $66 pumpkins that Martha is creating, but there's also an artist involved. And I don't know if there's a collaboration, but there was another part of this NFT where they said that there were going to be Martha Stewart thirst traps.
That was a part of the article, and I chose to not include that in this section because it just didn't feel right coming out of my mouth. So I left that aside.
I got you, though.
But there are indeed a lot more NFTs that if you're interested in, you can go look them up. They're right there, Martha Stewart NFTs. This pumpkin collection, which I'm really focusing on, obviously, is the carved collection. So you can go purchase that if it interests you. But that's all we got from Martha Stewart. That's the show right there.
Look at this guy with the pumpkin in the background. This is a key pumpkin influencer right here. Will Foxley.
Key.
Here we go.
Key.
Your tricks.
Tis the
Anyway, good
season.
time. All right, let's shut it down, folks. This has been The Hash. We'll be back tomorrow. Some other crazy stuff is going to happen. We're going to talk about it. But in the meantime, keep an eye out on that BITO ETF that's trading. See what that does. Keep an eye on this Novi stuff. Interesting as well. And certainly keep an eye on the Martha Stewart NFTs. If you haven't checked those out already, we want you to check them out. All right, that's it for The Hash today. We'll be back again tomorrow. CoinDesk.com has you covered. CoinDesk TV rides again at 3 p.m. Eastern with All About Bitcoin. Check that out if you haven't already. And we will talk to you later. For Will, for Jen, for Naomi, I'm Zach. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you soon. Have a good one.
See ya.